Hi, this is Bill Hitchcock, and I'm just going to demonstrate the first homework assignment working with some tables. And I've got a set of albums that we're going to be doing. So on the first sheet here, you can see there's a number of tasks. There's 20 different tasks, so we'll try to walk through those on this particular video. Down at the bottom of the screen, I've got my task. I've got the list of LPs on the other sheet tab. I'm going to click on that one. Then, just to make this a little bit easier to see, I'm going to zoom in a bit to see if that helps so we can see this. All right, the first task is we're doing what we call sequencing the records. And the idea here is you might want to always keep these records in the original order, whatever that might have been. You want to be able to sort back in that. So what we'll do is I'm going to right-click on column A. I'm going to insert a new column, and it inserts it to the left of wherever you were. I'm going to type in something like record number would work, or SEQ for sequence, that would work. You could do NUM for number. I've also seen OBS for observation, something like that. So we'll just type in SEQ for sequence. We'll type in 1, 2, and 3 to start our sequence. I'm going to format those numbers with a comma format. Now that's on the Home tab. In the middle here, I've got the number group. There's my comma style. I don't need the decimal places, so I can either increase the number of decimals, or in this case, I want to decrease the decimals. So I'm going to double click on that twice. And then what I can do is come over to my highlighted 3 numbers, the start of my sequence, and down here in the lower right-hand corner is the fill handle. And as I mouse over that, it becomes a small plus sign. If you double left click on that, double click on it, it will extend that series of numbers all the way down until it hits the last record. So as we scroll down here, you can see I get 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on all the way down here. And it looks as though I've got 63 albums or 63 LP records in here, and then it stopped because it hit a blank cell here, so it assumes that you want to stop at that point. So now I'm going to hold my control key down on the keyboard. I'm going to hit the home key once, and it takes me all the way back up to cell A1. All right, so that's the first task. Next thing it says to add the field time and compute the time by computing the length divided by 60. So I've got my sequence. I've got Born in the USA, Springsteen, Bruce, and the E Street Band, and so on and so forth. Over here is the length. Now that's just been typed in as text, and if you look up on the formula bar, it's kind of strange. It's giving you a strange number up here. It says January 1st, 1900, 10:57 p.m. That's because it's trying to interpret this as a date and a time. So be a little bit careful with when we enter the data. Actually, doing data entry, we might have been better off typing in 3 separate columns here. One for the hours, one for the minutes, one for the seconds, for instance. And but we'll just leave the length the way it is. I don't want to mess with that. So let's come out a little bit farther. Normally, anytime I'm going to do a calculated field, I always like to put those farther to the left because at some point, somebody had to type in all this data. And it's a lot easier just to keep typing in the data here if you don't have to skip over other calculated fields and so on. So that's why I'll do my calculations off to the right. Some people may not like it the way it's formatted that way, but trust me, it's usually a better solution. So we're going to type in the word time. Next to it, we're going to do the word hour. Then we'll have the word minute or min. We can do sec or second. And it looks like we've got another one here. We said decimal minute, so I'm just going to shorten that up just a little bit. And we've got some of those fields. This is for tasks 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right, so for the time, we said we're going to compute the time by taking the length divided by 60. So let's give that a try. We'll take the length, divide this by 60, and it converts this into a time function, which works out a little bit better for us. And I'm going to go to the different formats. So I just came on the Home tab. I've got general, number, currency, etc. There's long date. Here's some time functions. I want to choose other functions here, and under the time functions, they've got something like this one here, 13, 30, 55. It's showing my hours, minutes, and seconds. There's another one down here. You can see it like that. Here's one more. It is showing you kind of the hours, the minutes, and the seconds. You can choose that. And I think originally we had, it looks like just kind of a custom format that it was working there. Let's try that one more time and just see what happens if we adjust it to one of the time functions. And we'll try this one here and hit OK. And it shows up as a time function. So now that I've got that in, I want to copy this down for all the rest of my records. Could do Control-C, it'll copy it. And then I can highlight what cells I want to copy this into and hit either Control-V for paste or Enter. And we can paste it in that way. Or, again, just double-click on the fill handle. It will copy that all the way down. And we've now shown these times as how Excel would interpret them. All right, for the hour, there's built-in functions. There's an hour function. And I want to take the hour and find out, well, that one's 0 hours. That's fine. We can copy that one down. So here we've got a double album that actually went for over an hour of playing time. For the minute, it's not the min function, which is the minimum, but it is the minute function. And we'll, again, point to the time. So there I've got 46. Copy that down. Seconds. There's a sec function, which is the secant of an angle. Don't want that one. I want second. And I'll point to the time. And there's my 57 seconds. So if I wanted this as a decimal number, essentially what I want to do is I want to find out how many minutes this is. Well, 57 seconds is just about a minute. It's 57/60ths of a second. So what I can do is I can take the seconds, divide that by 60, add it to the minutes, and then add that to the number of hours that I have times 60 minutes per hour. Or you could do the hours times 60 plus the minutes plus the seconds divided by 60, however you want to type in the formula. Hit enter, and there I've got 46.95, almost 47 minutes. Format it with a comma format, so that way it carries it out to the same number of decimals. You can either increase that, you can decrease it, and there if you just wanted to show it that way. I'm going to choose just maybe 1 decimal point, and we'll double click. And there we've got how long those albums are in kind of a decimal number as opposed to just showing it up as time. All right, next we want to add a dollar per minute fee or field. So I've got the dollar per min. So for that one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take how much I purchased each of these records for. So here's $8.99. Divide that by the decimal minutes, and we find out that this one was basically 19 cents per minute of music. If you want to format it with a dollar sign, might make some sense. Copy that down. So this second one was actually a better deal. I got almost 34 minutes of music, and it only cost me $4, so just 12 cents a minute for that one. My double album here was almost a quarter minute of music, and so on. So that'd be a way of just doing some easy analysis. All right, so we've got the first bunch of tests done here. This is through test number 7. So I'm going to save this. And let's try doing number 8, 9, and 10. They've got some different sorting activities. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control Home. I want to sort these records. Now, you've got to be pretty careful when you're sorting, because if you have blank columns, like for instance right here, I've got a blank column. If I try to sort this data, it's going to mess things up. So for instance, if I sort the title, and on my Home tab, come here, choose sort and filter and sort A to Z, my albums seem to sort. All right, so there's this first album. It's got a number 3 there, so maybe we can left justify this. And then we've got a Passion Play, Animal Boy, A, B, C, D, E, and so on. However, a Passion Play suddenly now shows up as being a punk album, which isn't correct anymore. So I've got a huge problem. The fact that I started doing some more things, I got my records all out of sync because it doesn't match up with correct years and purchase prices and so on. I can frantically try to hit undo. And luckily, I'm back to the first step. But if you had to, go back, reopen your file, and start all over again. So that's why we sorted it in the first place. So we need to delete out this blank column. Even though it might look pretty, no blank columns, no blank rows. The other thing to check for is down at the bottom. You never want to do something like this, where you've got total. And then you put in an auto sum, and we get our total for how much all these records were purchased for. And I'm just going to format these quickly while I'm at it. Let's format this home. We'll do a $ format. So I spent $406.27. Again, now if I sort this, it's going to sort the totals right with it. So you always want to right-click, insert a blank row. Always leave one blank row after your last record in your data set. Then that way it won't try to include the totals when you sort. All right, so we've got that. Let's give it a try. We want to sort by the artist. So let's come here for artist. And you know what? Let's do this. Before we do, let's adjust the widths on some of these fields. So I'm just going to highlight all my columns. Double click between any two of these columns. Right between G and H, notice that the cursor becomes a pipe symbol with 2 arrows on it. If I double click there, it shrinks some of this stuff up. And now my titles are kind of wide, so I'm going to narrow that one up. But at least we can read the artist a little bit better, and that will work. So let's save what we have. Let's try going to, this time we'll go to data, because you can also get to sort from the data command. I'm going to choose A to Z under the artist, and we've got the artist. If I want to sort by the band, I will sort that way. If I want to sort by year, I just click in that column, sort by year. So whichever column you happen to be in, that's what it's going to do, A to Z. Or if you want to find out what the newest album is, I sort Z to A in descending order, and we could do something like that. So our first one was sort by artist. The first artist is Ian Anderson of Jethro Tull. And if we go all the way to the bottom, our last one, there's a couple albums by Warren Zevon, and we can see that. Sorting by length, we'll come back up here. Let's try coming over to the length column. We can sort it. You can see there's one. Actually, it was just a song by a band called called This Is the Day, and it is 4 minutes and 59 seconds long. Then we've got a single by the Waitresses, 20 minutes long. Here's an EP, an extended play by REM, 20 minutes long. And then once we start getting into single albums, we've got, basically 30 minutes and above from there. So that was task 8 and 9. Task 10 says we want to sort both by category and type. So if I come to category, or actually it's not the category I should have, well, yeah, we do have a category. Here it is. If it was a studio or a compilation album. So I'm going to sort by category. So we've got a couple compilations. I've got a couple live ones. It looks like just about everything else is all studio work. So because we've got all these studios, we want to sort the records by something else, some other field. So what I'll do is I'll choose sort here, And here I can have multiple categories. So I'm going to add a level, and we want by type. And even within type, we're going to have, either singles and songs. Most of these are all going to be single albums in the studio. So we'd probably want to sort by something else. Why don't we sort by, actually by artist, and hit OK. And there we go. So here's our two compilations. And we've got both single albums, so no difference there. Uriah Heep comes before War, and we've got that. Our two live ones, Neil Young comes before, Young comes before Zevon, so those sorted correctly. Then next after that, we've got a bunch of studio albums. These were the double albums, so that's why Tom Petty's showing up here. So we've got some Tom Petty double albums that are showing up, and then the Pink Floyd one. We've got our one EP, and then here's all of our single ones, and these you can see are pretty much all in order that way, alphabetical. All right, let's see, next. So we got the first 10 tasks done. We got 50% on this so far, and I'm already at 16 minutes. Let's save our work. And let's get to copy the genres below this list of records, remove the duplicates. All right, so let's grab our genres, shift, end, and down to select all of those. Hit copy, hit end and down to get down to the bottom. And I'm going to come down here and paste those genres. So then if I go to different tabs here, in data, there's an option to remove duplicates. So I'll choose that. It says, do you want to expand the selection? Probably because I have this right next to the word total, so I'm going to move this down just one more cell. I just hit Control X to cut it, paste it down there. Let's give it a shot here. Remove duplicates. It says column G. Actually, my data has headers because genre is the header, so I'm going to choose that. So now it says genre. That looks right. Okay. And it said 46 duplicate values were found. 17 unique ones remain. That looks good. And we'll hit OK. And of these genres, we could also sort this if we'd like. So that way they're sorted in alphabetical order. All right, let's see. Compute the total cost for each genre using the SUMIF function. So let's do that. We'll type in equals SUMIF. And I'm going to sum this up. It says the range, the criteria, and the sum range. All right, my range is different genres. So I'm going to highlight all of those. And I included, actually, I'll include the word genre. It won't hurt it. I'm also including the blank down below it. That way, if I insert any new albums either above my first one that's listed or below, or I should say, insert them above that blank record at the very end, that way this will automatically change. So I want to choose that. However, I'm going to use this formula. I'm going to copy it down. So I'm going to hold my function key, hit F4 once, hit it twice because I always want to lock in those rows. That looks good. Type in a comma. Criteria is extracted or non-duplicate genres, so alt rock. And then the sum range, we wanted to get how much money we spent on it. So my sum range is up here. So I'm just holding my shift key, hit end and up. It's the purchase prices, function F4 a couple of times. I want to lock that in. Right parenthesis, hit enter, and it tells me I spent $19.96 on some alt rock albums. So let's format that with a $sign. It's the big thing. We double click, and there we've got all those values. This one's showing up as pound signs. I got to widen out the column a little bit. We've got that. Let's type in the word total down here. I'm going to type in equals sum, and I want to sum all these up. And I got my 406.27. What else might not be a bad idea is just like there's a sum if formula, there's also a count if formula. So I'll show you that one. Count if. My range is genres. Shift end up. Function F4. And my genre is alt rock. I want to count out how many I have. There's 4 albums there. Copy that down. And let's copy over this sum, and we'll format it with a comma format. And that way it's a good check to find out, hey, there's 63 LPs there. That looks good. That's what we want. It verifies that we have that. So we could do the same thing for types. Let's grab our types. Shift and down. Copy that. Why don't we put the types off to the side here since I did this over. Let's see. Where do I want to put them? Right here is fine. Let's do data, remove duplicates. My data has headers. Hit OK. We've just got 5 types. For this, do the same, equals sum if, and my range is the types. So it's column H, function F4, comma, criteria is the single albums, and the sum range is going to be my purchase prices. Function F4. Enter. Format it. Copy that down. Add in the totals. Sum them up. We want to verify that sure enough it also equals 406.27. If you want to find out what percent you spent on it, we could do a percent formula here. We could say it equals 344.35 divided by 406.27. Function F4 a couple of times. And 85% of our purchases were for single albums. We copy it down, and we can do that as well. So, just a few things that you can try doing. All right, we're up to task number 14. Let's save this. Task 14 says add a field for the 5-year period. 5-year period. And I've got an album here that was from 1976. Here's another one, 1976. Here's a 73. Here's a 1980. So for my 5-year periods, what I want to do is if they were purchased between 1970 and 1974, that's a 5-year period, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74. So I'll add a new sheet. I'm going to zoom in to make it a little bit easier. We've got our 5-year period. And we'll start out, let's start out, actually 1960 is fine. 1965, highlight those 2 cells and just click and drag on the fill handle and copy this all the way down to 2020. And there's a bunch of 5-year periods. I can widen out this column, and we have that. If we wanted to count up how many records we have, we could do something like that. If we want to put a comma or a comment in here, we could do something like that as well. So I'm going to rename this sheet. And I'll just call this maybe my year table. I'm going to highlight, well, yeah, I'm going to highlight my years here. And I'm going to give them a range name. And the easiest way to give it a range name is you highlight the cells, up to the name box, and we'll just call this our 5-year table. Or if you want, I'll do an uppercase so you can read that a little bit easier. It said valid, oops. It didn't like that. All right, let's try it again. 5YR. It might not like the number 5. We'll try it again though first. 5-year table. Nope, it's not liking that. All right, we'll try it this way. Our year table. Here, except it doesn't like starting range names with numbers. So let's go to our list of LPs. I'm going to use a VLOOKUP formula. So I type in equals VLOOKUP. It means vertical lookup. I'm going to look up the lookup value. I need a table array, a column index number, and a range lookup. My lookup value is year, 1876. I'm going to look that up. So I type in a comma. I'm going to point to the year table. Click on 1960. Hold my shift key down. Start cursoring down, and notice up on here it says year table. So in other words, it's referencing a sheet. It's a 3D reference, A2 to A11. I keep going down, and as soon as I get to the last one, it uses the range name instead. What's nice is now I don't have to worry about doing that crazy function F4 with the dollar signs and getting absolute values. It's always going to use this table. Type in a comma. There's just one column in this table, so I'm going to type in 1. That's the column I want to return. Type in a comma. Then finally, it's either do you want to exactly match this or do you want to be close? Well, in this case, I don't want to exactly match because 1976 doesn't show up in the table, and I'd get an NA. I want it to look through and say, is it between 1960 and 65? Is it between 65 and 70? 70 and 75? 75 and 80? That's the one, because it's 1976. It's between those two, so it's going to return 75. So I want true, parenthesis, enter, and sure enough, I've got 1975. I'll copy this down, and there I've got all those albums into their correct 5-year period. All right, next it tells us to step number 15, insert a pivot table. So I'll save my work. As long as I'm in my list of records, I can choose insert, pivot table. It jumps through a bunch of things. What do you want to do with it? I want it on a new worksheet. You normally don't want to keep this on the same worksheet. Put it as a new one. Okay. And it's ready for my pivot table. So I'm going to come over here. I want to put in the purchase price. $406.27. That's the grand total. That's how much I spent on all these albums. Format it as a dollar sign. So if I want to know how much did I spend by artist, I click artist. And there we go. And check that one. How much did I spend by band? We can see it that way. How much did I spend by type? So what's nice about doing the type is we can sort this alphabetically. And then if I go back to my list of EPs and come down here to types, and let's come over here and sort this alphabet. Let's see, this was the amount spent. And this will say is the percent. So I want to have heading names on those. Go to sort and filter. Sort in ascending order alphabetically. 44.95, 199, 344, 35. So if you can remember those numbers, we look at our pivot table and we're getting the same results. So that's a good sign. All right. Let's rename this. Call it the pivot summary or pivot table or something. And we inserted a pivot table to summarize the albums by the 5-year period. So let's try get rid of type. Let's try that 5-year period. And we put that in here. The problem here is that 5-year period was a number. So it assumes that you just want to sum this stuff up. Well, I don't want to sum it up. Instead, what I want to do is I want to take that field, all right, so here's the sum of my purchase price. Here's the sum of the 5-year period. I'm going to click and drag that over here to the rows. Let me try it again. Click and drag to the rows, and there we've got it. How much I spent in 70 or albums from 70 to 74 is right here. 75 to 79, 80 to 84, and so on. All right, so you can see something like that. All right, that took care of task 14 and 15. Task number 16, insert 2 rows above the first record. So let's go into our list of LPs. Hit Control Home. My first record, actually it should be the first row, sorry, not the first record. Let's choose row 1 and row 2. Insert here, and I've got my field name still above the records. That looks good. I've got 2 rows above it. All right, then it tells me to use conditional formatting to highlight the purchase prices above a set amount. So here's my purchase prices. I want to find out, I'm just going to copy one of these. What if I had purchase prices that were above $8? I'm going to use conditional formatting on this. So I'll go to Home, go to Conditional Formatting, New Rule, Format only cells that contain something that is greater than or equal to cell in F1. I choose Format. I can make the font color something. So let's try a font color of, I don't know, maybe something like this, black, I guess. And then maybe I have fill color. We'll do kind of a lighter gray. Okay, and there we go. So then I can use my format painter, format paint all the purchase prices. Oh, that's too far down. Sorry about that. Right there. And it looks like it's working. Here's some items that are more than $8. In fact, let's just do this. Let's sort this from smallest to largest. So there's all the ones, $1.99. Get down here, $7.99, that's unformatted. But these here are all over $8 and they're all showing up being formatted. So it's kind of nice to do something like that. Let's resort this. Let's sort this back in the original order that we had. Just to show you how these things work. If we make it $3, it looks like it's highlighting just about everything. If we make it $10, you can see it's just highlighting a few of them. And that's what conditional formatting can do for you. All right, number 17 says use freeze panes and rows to repeat as appropriate. So I want to freeze these 3 rows. So I'm going to go to cell A4, choose View, choose Freeze Panes, and Freeze Panes. So now when we scroll down, you can still read those field names. So that's a good sign. Rows to repeat, that's on our printout. So we go to Page Layout, we choose Print Titles, and it says what rows do you want to repeat at the top? I want to repeat these 3 rows. So that way if I have multiple pages on this, let's take a look. We've got 4 pages on it. So if I start scrolling through, you can still read those first 3 rows. I can still see the field names, and that's the important part. All right, also, it says group the sheets, add in appropriate headers and footers. So I'm going to right-click on any one of my sheet tabs, select all the sheets. I want to go to Page Layout. I go to Print Titles. I want header and footer, custom header. Put your name in there, so I'll type in mine. Center section, name of the course, and the semester that we're doing this. Then I tab over the date printed, if we did print this out. Then I want to use this date tool. I want a custom footer. I like to include the file name, just the file name, not the full path name, just the file name, the one with the Excel. Center section gets page 1, for instance, of, this will tell you how many pages are in the entire workbook in this case. And then finally we've got the sheet name, and we'll use the sheet tab tool to get that. So that looks good. Margins. Usually left margin, you want to leave a bit of space in case somebody would 3-hole punches or try to bind this somehow if it was fairly long. Right margin, you can cut that back. Actually, for both of these, I'm going to try to maximize as much as I can because it's not going to be that many pages that if we print all this stuff out. So a stapler would do the trick. So we might be able to get by with really making the margin small. And then the other thing that we might want to do is this one, you're going to have to adjust each sheet individually. You might decide if you want to do it landscape or portrait. Landscape, this one's fairly wide, so we want to see if we can fit all this stuff on one page wide rather than having to jump from page to page. So I'll hit preview. Take a look how some of this is turning out. I've got 9 pages here. Here's my task page. That one's not too bad. I bet that one actually I could probably flip around and do portrait if I shrunk the font size down. Let's see, our next one, here's the pivot table. That one, again, portrait would be all right with that one. Here's our data. So that's not looking too bad on the data. But here we got some extra columns. So there we'd probably have to do columns to repeat as well. Or let's see if we can change the font size, shrink all this stuff down, kind of narrow everything up, and we might be better off saving ourselves some pages. So before you do anything else, ungroup your sheets. Right-click, ungroup sheets. So the pivot table, we said let's put that back to portrait. Tasks, let's try portrait. And there's my page break, so it looks like my tasks are going to fit there. That's all right. This one, let's take all of our data here. I'm going to scroll across all the way out here, and I'm going to shrink up my font size to size 8. And let's try to narrow up some of these columns here. The titles, again, if I widen that out, it's too wide. So let's just take this back a bit more. It's all right if some of these get chopped off a bit. Artists, we can do the same thing. Let's narrow that up. In fact, the rest of these columns, let's see how close we get if we narrow all those at one shot. The decimal minutes, I could actually shrink this back a bit. And then what I'll do is I'll make the row height a little bit higher. Come on, let's try that again. Oh, let's see what we did. Oh, I know what I didn't do. I didn't use wrap text. So I'm going to highlight these field names. Let's do wrap text. Center them. Boldface them. That was one of the things that I normally encourage you to do. The dollars per minute, we could shrink that up a little bit. 5-year period, we could shrink that one up a little bit. So it kind of cleans up the sheets a bit. And now it looks like this stuff will actually fit on one page wide rather than multiple pages. I'll do print titles here. I want to double check it. So I've got one page there, another one here. You can see actually I could probably make that left margin a little bit wider. Here's one where the decimal minutes, it looks like I shrunk that up a little bit too small because I've got pound signs there, so I probably better make that one a little bit wider. But, that actually works out pretty well. My totals will kind of show up on the next page, and that looks good. So let's adjust one last thing. I said the decimal minutes. Try widen that out, just wide enough. Good. Control home, save my work. And that takes care of our 20 tasks. So we got it done. Took us 40 minutes. Thanks very much for watching this. Good luck working on your project.